What are you doing here, old man? Officer Jake Morrison's words sliced through Mel's downtown diner. Every head snapped up. Bobby Washington, 62, froze with his coffee cup halfway to his lips. Morrison stepped closer, his shadow falling across Bobby's plate. I asked you a question. Officer, I'm just having lunch. Don't give me that. Morrison's hand slammed onto the counter. Bobby's coffee jumped, spilling across his newspaper. Elena Rodriguez gasped behind the register. Sarah Lane's fingers flew to her phone. The construction worker stood up from his booth. Morrison leaned down, his face inches from Bobby's. Let me see some ID, and it better be real. Bobby's hands trembled as he reached for his wallet, not from fear, from decades of swallowed pride. Robert Washington, Morrison read mockingly. What kind of work do you do, Robert? Stealing? Dealing? The accusations hit like physical blows. Elena stepped forward. Stop this! He's done nothing wrong. Morrison whirled toward her. Ma'am, interfere again and you'll be in cuffs too. Have you ever watched dignity get stripped away piece by piece? This was only the beginning. Bobby Washington had built his life on quiet dignity and steady service. For 30 years, he coordinated community volunteer programs in the toughest neighborhoods, organizing food drives, youth mentorship, and neighborhood cleanups. He believed in building bridges, not walls. After retirement, he spent 15 more years delivering mail through those same streets, earning respect one doorstep at a time. His wife, Martha, had been his anchor. 3 years since cancer took her, leaving him with memories and a son whose work kept him far away in Washington. Bobby never talked about Marcus's job something important with the government, security-related. Too dangerous to discuss, Marcus always said. Every Tuesday for 3 years, Bobby came to Mel's downtown diner. Same time, same order. Turkey sandwich, black coffee, sports section of the newspaper. Elena Rodriguez had bought the place from the original owner, keeping its blue-collar warmth while attracting new faces. She genuinely cared about her regulars. How are you doing today, Mr. Washington? She'd always ask. Can't complain, Elena. Beautiful day. Today started no differently. Bobby finished his morning chess game with Tommy at the community center, then walked to Mel's. Elena waved from behind the counter, already preparing his usual order. Officer Morrison told a different story. 8 years on the force, 17 official complaints filed against him. Internal Affairs investigated twice both times, finding insufficient evidence. His pattern was clear: aggressive stops, excessive force allegations, always targeting minorities. His rookie partner, Danny Pierce, 6 months out of the academy, followed Morrison's lead despite growing unease. Morrison's radio had crackled earlier. All units, BOLO for elderly black male, approximately 60 to 65, suspected shoplifting from Martinez Grocery on 5th Street. Morrison glanced at Pierce. Perfect match there. Pierce hesitated. He looked settled in. That's how they operate, Morrison said, adjusting his belt. Act innocent, blend in. Trust me. Sarah Lane, the freelance journalist 3 stools down from Bobby, was researching police misconduct for an upcoming article. Her phone lay within easy reach. She always documented interesting stories. Today felt different somehow. 2 construction workers occupied a corner booth, sharing complaints about their foreman. A mother fed her toddler applesauce near the window. An elderly couple shared coconut cream pie. Normal people are about to witness something extraordinary. Bobby's phone sat face down beside his coffee cup, its screen dark but full of unread messages. Dad, can't make dinner Sunday. Presidential detail called up for emergency protocols. Saw the news about your commendation. Martha would be so proud. Thanks, Dad. I wish she could see this. The newest message, sent just this morning. Dad, something big is happening at work today. Can't say what, but thinking of you. Stay safe. Bobby never saw it. He'd been too focused on the newspaper article about recent White House security improvements, not knowing his own son had helped implement them. The diner's atmosphere shifted subtly as Morrison approached. Conversations quieted without people realizing why. Elena's hand moved instinctively toward the phone behind the register. Sarah's fingers hovered over her camera app. Outside, normal city life continued. Office workers hurried past with their lunch orders. Traffic moved steadily. Nobody suspected that in the next few minutes, events would unfold, reaching the highest levels of government. The stage was perfectly set. An innocent man enjoying his routine lunch, an officer with a pattern of abuse looking for his next target, and hidden connections that would soon explode into public view. Morrison pushed through the diner's glass door, his eyes immediately scanning for his suspect. The radio call had been clear elderly black male, approximately Bobby's age and description. In Morrison's mind, that was enough. What he didn't know was that this particular elderly black man had raised the person responsible for protecting the President of the United States. That detail would matter very soon. Bobby politely handed over his driver's license, his fingers steady despite the familiar humiliation burning in his chest. Robert Washington, age 62, Morrison read aloud, his voice dripping with mock curiosity. Community Volunteer Coordinator. How noble. He examined the ID with theatrical suspicion, holding it up to the light as if checking for forgeries. The entire diner watched in uncomfortable silence. This address current, Robert? Yes, sir. Morrison's laugh was harsh and ugly. Sir? How respectful. They're always so polite when they're caught. Pierce shifted uncomfortably beside his partner. Something felt fundamentally wrong about this interaction, but he remained silent, intimidated by Morrison's reputation and his own inexperience. Elena stepped forward, her maternal instincts overriding caution. Officer, Mr. Washington has been coming here every Tuesday for 3 years. He's never caused any problems. Morrison spun toward her, his face flushing with irritation. Ma'am, I need you to step back immediately. This is official police business. This is my restaurant. And this is my investigation. Bobby watched the exchange with growing dread. He'd seen this pattern before authority figures who used their badges as weapons, who saw his skin color as probable cause. His community work had taught him to de-escalate situations, but this felt different, more volatile. Morrison pocketed Bobby's license with deliberate slowness. Stand up. Turn around. Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. Turn around! The command exploded through the diner like a gunshot. Bobby, maintaining what dignity he could, slowly rose and faced the wall. Morrison immediately began an aggressive pat-down, his hands invasive and unnecessarily rough. Checking for weapons, Morrison announced loudly for everyone to hear. Can't be too careful with suspects. Sarah Lane's thumb hovered over her phone's record button. Every instinct screamed at her to document this, but fear paralyzed her fingers. Not yet. Wait for the right moment. Morrison pulled out Bobby's wallet, holding it up like evidence at a trial. Look at this. A lot of cash for someone just having lunch. Bobby carried $127, his monthly veterans benefit money, carefully budgeted for groceries and small pleasures like his Tuesday lunch. Where did you get this money, Robert? Veterans Administration. I receive my check the first Tuesday of every month. How convenient. Morrison counted the bills slowly, deliberately. Martinez Grocery reported someone matching your exact description stole $120 from their register. Elena gasped audibly. That's impossible. He's been sitting here for over an hour. You sure about that timing, ma'am? Or are you just protecting a friend? During the humiliating pat-down, Bobby's phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID displayed Marcus work phone. Neither officer noticed the brief illumination, but Sarah Lane caught a glimpse of something unusual. Was that a government contact photo? The call went to voicemail. Marcus's voice, unheard by anyone present. "Dad, sorry to call during lunch, but there's been a security situation developing." "I need to tell you." The message cut off as Bobby's phone battery died, the screen going black just as Morrison found it. "What's this?" Morrison held up the phone like he'd discovered contraband. "My phone, officer." "We'll see about that." The construction worker in the corner booth had seen enough. He stood up, his work boots loud against the tile floor. "Hey, that's not right. That man hasn't left this diner." Morrison's hand moved instinctively to his taser. "Sit down. Nobody asked for your opinion." The worker sat reluctantly, but pulled out his own phone. Sarah Lane finally found her courage and started recording. Elena moved toward the phone behind the register. "I'm calling the police supervisor." "No!" Morrison shouted, his control slipping. "Nobody calls anyone!" Bobby remained calm despite his racing heart. His years of community service had taught him that dignity was something nobody could take away. It could only be surrendered. "Officer, I understand you're doing your job, but I promise you're making a serious mistake. The only mistake was you thinking you could steal from hard-working people and get away with it." Morrison grabbed Bobby's arm roughly, preparing to drag him toward the door. The elderly man stumbled slightly, his knee, injured years ago in a workplace accident, buckled under the sudden force. "He's hurt!" Elena cried out. "He's resisting!" Morrison yelled back, reaching for his handcuffs. Sarah Lane's recording captured everything. Morrison's excessive force, Bobby's complete compliance, the growing crowd of upset witnesses, Elena's desperate attempts to intervene. What nobody in that diner knew was that this video, within hours, would be viewed by someone with daily access to the President of the United States. As Morrison snapped the first cuff onto Bobby's wrist, the elderly man looked directly at Sarah's camera with quiet dignity and said, "Please make sure my son knows what happened here today." Morrison forced Bobby's hands behind his back, but the retired man's shoulder injured years ago in a postal facility accident couldn't bend that way. "I can't move my arm like that," Bobby said through gritted teeth, his face gray with pain. "Stop resisting!" Morrison shouted, applying more pressure to the injured joint. The construction worker stood again, his face red with anger. "That man is not resisting!" Other customers began voicing objections. Elena grabbed her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. Morrison spun around wildly. "Everyone shut up, or you're all getting arrested for interfering with police business!" The crowd quieted, but phones appeared like flowers after rain. Multiple people started recording from different angles. Sarah's live stream went active. "This is happening right now at Mel's downtown diner. An elderly black man is being arrested for allegedly stealing money, but witnesses say he's been here over an hour." Her viewer count immediately began climbing. 20 viewers. 50. 100. Morrison yanked Bobby's injured shoulder. An audible pop echoed through the silent diner. Bobby cried out, the first sound of real pain he'd made. "Oh, God!" Elena screamed. "You're hurting him!" Pierce finally stepped forward. "Jake, ease up!" "Back off, Pierce!" Bobby's face went ashen, but he didn't fight back. His years of community service had taught him patience even in crisis, even as his shoulder dislocated with a sickening grinding sound. The mother near the window covered her child's eyes. The elderly couple looked horrified. Sarah's live stream viewer count jumped to 200, then 500. "This is completely wrong," the construction worker muttered to his partner. "We gotta do something." "What can we do?" "He's got a badge and a gun." Elena rushed forward with a clean towel for Bobby's shoulder. Morrison blocked her path aggressively. "Stay back." "What's your badge number?" Elena demanded, her voice carrying across the entire diner. The construction worker pulled out his phone, zooming in on Morrison's uniform. "It's 4472, badge number 4472. Morrison realized he was being recorded from multiple angles. His aggression intensified like a cornered animal lashing out. "All of you delete those videos right now!" Nobody moved. The elderly man sharing pie with his wife whispered, "In 50 years of marriage, I've never seen anything like this." Sarah's live stream hit 1,000 viewers. Comments flooded in faster than she could read. "Call the police. This is insane. Someone help him. Where is this happening? Badge 4472 needs to be fired." Morrison's radio crackled with static. "Unit 23. What's your status on the 5th Street theft?" Morrison paused, still gripping Bobby roughly, sweat beading on his forehead despite the diner's air conditioning. "Unit 23, please respond. Martinez Grocery just called in. They found their missing money in the back storage room. Repeat, the money was found in their back storage room. False alarm on the theft report." The diner went dead silent except for the hum of the coffee machine and the soft whir of recording phones. Bobby looked up at Morrison with quiet dignity intact, despite his obvious pain. "Officer?" Morrison's face flushed deep red. He'd been caught red-handed in front of witnesses, cameras, and now his own radio dispatch confirming his massive mistake. Pierce realized the horrible truth. His partner had just brutalized an innocent man based on a false report. "Jake, let him go. Right now." "No. He's still suspicious. Could be involved in other crimes. Drug dealing, maybe." "Based on what evidence?" the construction worker called out. "Based on I'm the cop here," Morrison snarled back. Sarah's live stream exploded to 2,500 viewers. Comments streamed faster than humanly readable. Screenshots began circulating on Twitter and Facebook. Bobby's breathing became labored. The shoulder dislocation and mounting stress triggered anxiety from years of facing discrimination and systemic harassment. His chest tightened. I need to sit down," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You'll sit when I tell you to sit." Elena pushed past Morrison, supporting Bobby's weight with her small frame. "He's having a panic attack. This man needs immediate medical attention." The construction worker speed-dialed emergency services. "We need an ambulance at Mel's Diner downtown. A police officer is using excessive force on an elderly man who's clearly injured." Morrison lunged for the phone. "Hang up that call immediately." "You cannot stop me from calling for medical help!" the worker shouted back, his voice echoing off the diner's walls. Pierce finally found his backbone. "Jake, we need paramedics here now. Look at him. He can barely breathe." Bobby's memories of past discrimination mixed with present trauma. Every slight he'd endured, every time he'd been followed in stores, every suspicious look, it all came flooding back. He felt isolated and under attack, surrounded by hostility just like so many other moments throughout his long life. Sarah Lane made a decision that would change everything. She posted her live stream simultaneously to Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook with the caption, "Happening now. Police brutality at Mel's Diner downtown. Elderly black man being assaulted for a crime that never happened. Badge number 4472. Share this everywhere." Within minutes, the video began spreading across social media platforms like wildfire. Local influencers retweeted it. Civil rights organizations shared it. Ordinary people forwarded it to their friends. A local television news station's assignment editor spotted it trending. A prominent civil rights attorney saw it on her timeline and immediately started making phone calls. A member of Congress retweeted it with angry commentary about police reform. And in Washington, D.C., someone very important received a phone notification that would change absolutely everything. Bobby's phone, its screen cracked from falling during the struggle, flickered briefly to life with emergency battery power, the kind that activates during crises. The caller ID showed, "Marcus, urgent, White House." Elena noticed the brief illumination. "Mr. Washington, someone's trying to reach you. It looks important." Morrison saw the phone and snatched it roughly. "Nobody touches anything. That's potential evidence in my investigation. Evidence of what exactly? Elena demanded, her voice rising with each word. But Sarah Lane, still live streaming to thousands of viewers worldwide, caught a clear glimpse of the caller ID on her camera. Her viewers saw it too, and tech-savvy watchers began taking screenshots and zooming in on the screen capture. Comments started pouring in. Who's Marcus? Did that say White House? Is that a government contact? Someone needs to trace that number. This is bigger than we thought. Paramedics arrived, their red and white ambulance visible through the diner's large windows, emergency lights painting the interior in alternating colors. But Morrison positioned himself between them and Bobby like a human wall. He's under arrest for theft and resisting. Medical attention comes after processing at the station. The lead paramedic, an experienced black woman named Angela with 20 years of emergency response, stepped forward with professional authority that came from saving lives daily. Sir, this man requires immediate medical attention. His shoulder is clearly dislocated, and he's showing signs of cardiac distress. You can arrest him at the hospital if you believe that's necessary. Nobody tells me how to do my job. I've been doing this for 8 years. Angela examined Bobby's condition from a distance, dislocated shoulder, labored breathing, obvious psychological distress. She recognized trauma when she saw it, both physical and emotional. Officer, if this man suffers a heart attack or stroke because you denied medical care, that responsibility falls entirely on you. I'm documenting this refusal in my report. The live stream viewer count hit 10,000 and climbing rapidly. Local news vans began arriving outside, their satellite dishes extending like mechanical flowers reaching for the sky. Pierce looked around nervously at the growing crowd of witnesses, the paramedics, the phones recording everything. Jake, this has gone too far. We need to dash. We need to finish what we started, Morrison interrupted, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Unknown to everyone in the diner, Marcus Washington sat in the middle of a high-level White House security briefing when his phone buzzed insistently with social media alerts from his news monitoring apps. His assistant leaned over quietly. Sir, there's something trending nationwide that mentions law enforcement. Hashtags Mel's Diner. Incident and badge 4472 are going viral. Marcus clicked on Sarah's live stream with mild professional curiosity, thinking it might be relevant to ongoing security concerns. His entire world stopped. On the screen before him, crystal clear despite his phone's small display, he watched his father. The man who raised him alone after his mother died, who supported every dream, who sacrificed everything for his son's success, being brutalized by a police officer. Marcus's colleagues immediately noticed his expression change from professional interest to absolute shock to barely controlled rage. Sir? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Marcus stood slowly, his chair rolling backward, his face transformed into a mask of barely controlled fury that his security team had never witnessed before. I need to make several phone calls. Right now. Cancel the rest of today's briefings. His supervisor stepped forward with concern. Marcus, what's happening? That man being assaulted on live television, Marcus said quietly, his voice deadly calm, is my father. As Morrison continued his abuse of power, ignoring paramedics, witnesses, and growing media attention, his radio crackled one final time with unusual static. Unit 23, you have an urgent priority call from federal authorities. Report to your supervisor immediately for further instructions. This is not a drill. Morrison froze completely. Federal authorities? In 8 years on the force, he'd never heard those words directed at him. Pierce looked confused and increasingly frightened. What federal authorities, Jake? What's going on? Neither officer understood that 240 miles away, the sun they'd never heard of was about to turn their entire world completely upside down. Morrison's radio crackled with unusual urgency before a calm, authoritative voice cut through the static. Officer Morrison, this is Deputy Chief Reynolds. You will immediately cease all activities and await federal authorities on scene." Morrison stared at his radio in complete confusion. "Federal authorities?" "Sir, I'm just processing a routine theft suspect." "Officer Morrison, you are to step away from the suspect immediately and await further instructions. This is not a request." Pierce exchanged terrified glances with Morrison. In 8 years on the force, neither had ever heard federal involvement in what seemed like a simple theft case that had already been proven false. Sarah's livestream viewer count exploded past 25,000 and climbed rapidly. Comments streamed by in an endless blur. "Holy shit, feds are coming." "Who is this old man?" "Someone important is about to get wrecked." "This is about to get real." Morrison is so screwed. Elena helped Bobby to a chair, his shoulder hanging at an unnatural angle, his breathing still labored. "Mr. Washington, what's happening?" Who would call federal authorities for something like this? Bobby looked confused through his pain, a small flicker of hope dancing in his eyes. I don't know. Maybe someone saw the video and called it in?" But deep down, in a place he barely dared to hope, he wondered, could Marcus somehow know what was happening? Marcus Washington stood in the White House Security Command Center, his hands shaking with barely controlled rage as he watched multiple live stream feeds of his father's assault on his computer screen. His supervisor, Director Janet Coleman, approached cautiously. "Marcus, you said something about needing to see social media trending. There's some incident at a diner that's going viral." "I know," Marcus said with deadly quiet calm. "That man being brutalized by badge number 4472 is my father." Director Coleman stopped dead in her tracks. "Your father?" "Robert Washington. The man you're watching get assaulted on live television in front of thousands of witnesses is my dad." The entire Security Command Center fell silent. Everyone present knew Marcus Washington, 15-year Secret Service veteran, 3 commendations for exceptional bravery, personally selected by the President for his current role as Chief of White House Security. He was respected, trusted, and absolutely not someone whose family you wanted to mess with. Coleman immediately grasped the political and legal implications. "How do you want to handle this?" Marcus's voice turned ice-cold professional, the tone he used during national security crises. "Get me the police commissioner on the phone within 60 seconds, then connect me to the mayor's office, then patch me through to the governor. In that exact order." Within minutes of Marcus's first phone call, a sequence of events unfolded that transformed the diner incident from local police brutality to a national crisis with federal implications. Police Commissioner Davis answered his direct line on the second ring. "Commissioner Davis speaking." "Commissioner, this is Marcus Washington, Chief of White House Security. I'm currently watching your officer badge number 4472 assault my father on a live stream being viewed by 30,000 people and growing. You have exactly 3 minutes to handle this situation before it becomes a federal civil rights investigation." Commissioner Davis, who had worked closely with Marcus during recent presidential security visits, nearly dropped his phone. "Your father?" "Dear God, I'll dispatch supervisors immediately and personally respond." Mayor Patricia Williams took Marcus's call while in a budget meeting. "Marcus? This is unexpected. Madam Mayor, your police department is currently brutalizing a 62-year-old community volunteer on live television. That volunteer raised me. He taught me about service, dignity, and justice. How do you plan to address this situation?" The mayor, who owed her successful presidential campaign event last year to Secret Service coordination that Marcus had overseen, realized she was facing a political earthquake. "Marcus, I'm horrified. I'll handle this personally and immediately." Governor Richardson answered his phone during a press conference about infrastructure funding. His aide whispered urgently in his ear before handing him the phone. "Governor, this is Marcus Washington from White House Security. You might want to turn on social media right now. Your state police may need to intervene in a federal civil rights violation happening in real time. The victim being assaulted by your local police is my father." Governor Richardson, whose political career had benefited enormously from his association with successful presidential visits coordinated through Marcus's security work, understood immediately that this could define his entire political legacy. "I'll mobilize state resources immediately." Back at the diner, 3 unmarked black SUVs with government plates pulled up outside. Sarah's live stream captured federal agents in dark suits emerging, earpieces visible, moving with practiced efficiency. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered to her 40,000 viewers. "Federal agents just arrived. This is incredible. What is happening here?" Inside the diner, Morrison's radio exploded with overlapping chatter. "All units, federal authorities on scene at Mel's Diner location." Commissioner Davis responded personally to the scene. Mayor's office requesting immediate status update. Media response team deploying citywide. Internal affairs en route to immediate investigation. Pierce looked absolutely terrified. "Jake, what the hell did we walk into? This was supposed to be a simple theft call." Agent Sarah Mitchell from the FBI Civil Rights Division entered first, her credentials immediately visible. Behind her came Agent Carlos Mendez and a man in an expensive tailored suit, Marcus Washington's personal attorney, dispatched ahead of his arrival with instructions to protect Bobby's rights. "Officer Morrison," Agent Mitchell announced with federal authority. "I'm FBI Agent Mitchell, Civil Rights Division. You're going to step away from Mr. Washington immediately and surrender his identification." Morrison, still holding Bobby's ID like a prize, realized his world was collapsing in real time. "This is just a routine arrest for theft." "There is nothing routine about assaulting the father of the chief of White House security," the attorney interrupted coldly, his words carrying the weight of federal power. The crowd gasped audibly. Elena's eyes widened in shock. Sarah's live stream chat exploded into complete chaos. "White House security chief? His son works for the president? Holy shit, this guy is connected to the White House. Morrison just messed with the wrong family. This is about to be legendary." Bobby looked up in genuine confusion, pride mixing with his pain. "White House security? That's my son Marcus. He works in Washington, but I never knew exactly what." Elena's jaw dropped completely. "Your son works at the White House for the president?" Agent Mitchell approached Bobby with gentle professionalism. "Mr. Washington, your son asked me to give you this message personally. Dad, I'm flying down right now on a government aircraft. Nobody will ever treat you like this again. I promise." Tears streamed down Bobby's weathered face. Not from physical pain anymore, but from overwhelming pride mixed with relief. His son had become everything Bobby had hoped, everything Martha had dreamed. Commissioner Davis burst through the diner door, breathing heavily from running, his uniform disheveled. He took one comprehensive look at Morrison, then at the federal agents, then at Bobby Washington sitting injured and dignified despite everything. "Officer Morrison," he said with quiet, deadly authority, "you are suspended from duty effective immediately. Badge, weapon, and radio. Right now." Morrison's hands shook uncontrollably as he removed his badge, the piece of metal that had given him power to terrorize people for 8 years. "Sir, I was just following procedure for a theft suspect." "You were just ending your career." Commissioner Davis cut him off with finality. "Mr. Washington, on behalf of the entire police department, I offer our sincere apology. This behavior is completely unacceptable and will be fully investigated. Paramedics, please attend to this gentleman immediately." Pierce, realizing the magnitude of what he had witnessed and his own complicity through silence, spoke up with newfound courage. "Commissioner, I want to file a formal complaint against my partner. What I witnessed here today was completely wrong, and I should have stopped it." The media frenzy outside had grown exponentially. News vans surrounded the diner like wagons in a circle. Sarah's live stream reached 60,000 viewers. The hashtag Mel's Diner Justice began trending nationally on every social media platform. Elena approached Bobby as paramedics carefully examined his shoulder. "Mr. Washington, in 3 years, why didn't you ever mention that your son worked for the president?" Bobby managed a pained but genuine smile. "Marcus and we agreed never to discuss his work. Too dangerous, too sensitive. I just knew he did something important in Washington for the government. I never wanted special treatment or to brag about my boy. I just wanted to be Bobby from the neighborhood, you know." Agent Mitchell addressed the room full of witnesses and cameras. "This incident will be fully investigated by federal authorities under civil rights violation statutes." Mr. Washington's constitutional rights were clearly violated. Officer Morrison will face federal charges in addition to any local disciplinary action. Commissioner Davis added with visible anger, "The department will implement immediate reforms including mandatory bias training, community oversight, and zero tolerance for excessive force. This behavior is absolutely unacceptable." Morrison, his badge and weapon confiscated, his career destroyed, realized that 8 years of getting away with abuse had finally caught up with him. His pattern of targeting minorities, his 17 complaints, his 2 internal affairs investigations, all of it would now be reopened and scrutinized under federal investigation. Pierce approached Bobby with genuine remorse. "Sir, I'm deeply sorry I didn't intervene sooner. I was wrong to stay silent." Bobby, gracious even in his moment of vindication, responded with the dignity that had defined his entire life. "Son, courage isn't the absence of fear. Sometimes it takes time to find your voice. You found yours when it truly mattered." The diner erupted in spontaneous applause. The construction worker shouted, "Justice!" Elena carefully hugged Bobby around his uninjured shoulder. Sarah's live stream showed a moment of pure community triumph over systemic abuse. Outside, a crowd had gathered to support Bobby. Handmade signs appeared. "We stand with Bobby. Justice for community heroes. White House Dad." The scene transformed from a sight of injustice into a celebration of dignity restored. Bobby's phone, somehow finding enough power for one more call, rang with a FaceTime request. Marcus appeared on screen, calling from Air Force Transport. "Dad? Dad, are you okay? I'm 20 minutes out." The entire diner watched as father and son reconnected across the digital divide. "I'm okay, son." Just a misunderstanding that got out of hand. "No, Dad." This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was wrong, and everyone involved will answer for it. "I'm so proud of how you handled yourself. Mom would be proud, too." Elena wiped tears from her eyes. Sarah's viewers witnessed a moment of pure love triumphing over hatred and abuse of power. As federal agents took Morrison into custody, reading him his rights for civil rights violations under federal law, the man who had terrorized minorities for 8 years finally faced consequences for his actions. The power had completely reversed. Justice, delayed but not denied, had finally arrived. 30 minutes later, the distinctive sound of helicopter rotors filled the air above Mel's Diner. A black government helicopter with official markings descended into the parking lot across the street, its downdraft scattering loose papers and turning heads throughout the neighborhood. Marcus Washington emerged in his dark tailored suit, Secret Service earpiece still active, moving with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to protecting the most powerful person in the world. His face showed controlled emotion relief mixed with barely contained anger at what had happened to his father. The crowd that had gathered parted respectfully as he approached the diner. News cameras captured every step. Local residents whispered among themselves, realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. The son of their neighbor, Bobby, commanded this level of federal response. Inside, Bobby sat with his arm properly stabilized in a professional sling, giving his detailed statement to FBI agents. His shoulder had been relocated by paramedics, though he would need surgery to repair torn ligaments. When he saw Marcus through the window, his face transformed completely pain, giving way to pure paternal pride. Father and son embraced carefully, Marcus mindful of the injury, both men fighting back tears they'd held in check for too long. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I should have been here to protect you." "You were here, son. When it mattered most, you were exactly where you needed to be." Agent Mitchell addressed the growing media crowd outside through a hastily arranged press conference. "Our preliminary investigation shows clear federal civil rights violations. Former Officer Morrison has been arrested on charges including assault under color of authority, deprivation of civil rights under federal statute, and excessive use of force resulting in bodily harm." Morrison, now in handcuffs himself, was led past the news cameras to a federal transport vehicle. The irony wasn't lost on anyone watching, especially Sarah's live stream viewers, now numbering over 200,000 worldwide. Comments poured in celebrating the justice reversal. Karma served cold. "This is what justice looks like. Never mess with White House Dad." Pierce stood beside Commissioner Davis, cooperating fully with federal investigators. His body camera footage, conveniently forgotten during the initial incident, suddenly became crucial evidence after Morrison's arrest. Pierce had found his conscience, finally understanding that silence in the face of injustice made him complicit. Elena addressed the crowd from her diner steps, her voice carrying over the assembled masses. "Mr. Washington has been part of our family here for 3 years. What happened today was completely wrong, but watching this community stand up for what's right, that's the America I believe in. That's America worth fighting for." The construction worker who had first spoken up approached Marcus directly. "Your dad's a good man. We all knew that long before we knew who you were or what you do." Marcus shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for having the courage to stand up when it mattered. My father raised me to believe that ordinary people doing extraordinary things is how real change happens." Dr. Patricia Williams from City General Hospital completed her examination of Bobby's shoulder in the diner's back booth, converted into a makeshift medical station. "The dislocation has been properly relocated, but you'll need surgery within the week to repair ligament damage. Full recovery is expected with physical therapy." As she worked, Bobby winced but remained stoic. "I've had worse injuries. This isn't my first encounter with people who didn't like the color of my skin." Marcus held his father's uninjured hand. "You don't have to minimize this, Dad. What happened was assault, pure and simple. I'm not minimizing it, son. I'm putting it in perspective. Your mother always said you'd do something important with your life. Today proved her right." Marcus addressed the assembled media outside the diner, his father beside him, both men presenting a united front of dignity and strength. "My father served his community for 30 years through volunteer coordination and postal service. He came home every day and taught me about justice, dignity, and service to others. Today, he showed the world what grace under pressure truly looks like." Bobby spoke softly into the cluster of microphones. "I don't want Officer Morrison destroyed as a person. I want him educated. Hatred usually comes from fear and ignorance. Maybe this situation can become a teaching moment for everyone involved, including him." The crowd murmured appreciation for Bobby's remarkable grace and forgiveness, even after his ordeal. Marcus continued with quiet intensity. "But make absolutely no mistake. Civil rights violations will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of federal law. My father deserves justice. Every American citizen deserves to be treated with basic human dignity, regardless of their skin color." Commissioner Davis announced immediate department-wide reforms at an impromptu press conference. Mandatory implicit bias training for all officers, body cameras required during every public interaction, establishment of a civilian oversight board with real authority, and zero-tolerance policies for excessive force with automatic federal referral. Mayor Williams arrived personally, stepping out of her official car to address the situation directly. This incident exposes systemic problems we must address immediately and completely. Mr. Washington, you have the city's full apology and our commitment to meaningful reform. Governor Richardson called personally during the press conference, his voice broadcast through speakerphone. The state is implementing emergency police reform initiatives. What happened to Mr. Washington cannot and will not be tolerated anywhere in our state. Elena made her own announcement to the gathered crowd. Today showed me something beautiful about human nature. When good people stand together. Against injustice, justice wins. I'm establishing the Bobby Washington Community Service Fund right here at the diner. Free meals for anyone in need, always available. The crowd cheered enthusiastically. Bobby protested that he didn't need special recognition, but Elena insisted firmly, "This isn't special treatment, Mr. Washington. This is treating you the way you should have been treated from the very beginning." Officer Pierce requested a private moment with Bobby and Marcus, his face showing genuine remorse and shame. "Mr. Washington, I've been a coward for 6 months. I watched Morrison intimidate and abuse people, and I said nothing. Your dignity today showed me more about courage than the police academy ever taught me." Bobby extended his uninjured hand without hesitation. "Son, courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right despite being afraid. You found your courage when it truly counted." Marcus nodded approvingly. Character isn't defined by perfection. It's defined by the choice to grow and do better. Pierce wiped away tears. "I want to be the kind of officer you'd be proud to see in your neighborhood, Mr. Washington." The social media aftermath continued growing exponentially. Sarah's original live stream had been viewed over 500,000 times. Mel's Diner Justice became the top trending hashtag globally, shared across every platform imaginable. Comments poured in from around the world. Faith in humanity restored. This is how you handle police brutality. That father raised his son right. True justice in action. From victim to victor. As media attention gradually shifted toward the broader implications for police reform, Marcus and Bobby found a quiet moment together in Elena's diner, sharing coffee and Bobby's finally delivered turkey sandwich. "You know, son, I never told people what you do because I wanted them to respect me for who I am, not whose father I am. I understand completely, Dad. That's exactly why you're the man you are, and why I became the man I am." Bobby smiled through residual pain. "Your mother would be incredibly proud, not of the job title or the power, but of the character behind them both." They sat together in comfortable silence, father and son. Justice served, dignity restored, their relationship strengthened by crisis overcome together. Marcus had to return to Washington within hours. Presidential security never paused for personal emergencies. But he had arranged extended leave to spend time with his father during recovery and healing. "You don't need to take care of me, son. I'm tougher than I look." "I'm not taking care of you, Dad. I'm making up for lost time we should have spent together." The man responsible for protecting the President of the United States helped his father to the waiting government car, proving that the most important job titles are often the most personal ones: father, son, family. 3 months later, Mel's downtown diner had transformed into something extraordinary. Tour buses made regular stops. A bronze historical marker by the entrance read, "Site of the 2025 Civil Rights Victory, where community courage confronted injustice." Bobby Washington, his shoulder fully healed through surgery and physical therapy, sat at his usual counter spot every Tuesday. But he was no longer alone. Community members from across the city joined him for what locals now called Tuesday Coffee with Bobby, an informal gathering where neighbors discussed everything from local politics to their children's futures. Elena served them all with visible pride. The Bobby Washington Community Service Fund had provided over 3,000 free meals to families in need, funded entirely by donations from people who had seen the viral video and wanted to contribute to positive change. The legal aftermath had been swift and comprehensive. Morrison pleaded guilty to federal civil rights violations, receiving 2 years in federal prison, followed by mandatory community service teaching diversity awareness in police academies nationwide. During his sentencing, he had requested permission to address Bobby directly. "Mr. Washington, I was completely wrong. I hope someday to earn not your forgiveness, but the chance to prove I can change." Bobby had attended every court hearing. Afterward, he told reporters, "Redemption is possible for anyone who genuinely seeks it and commits to the hard work of becoming better." Officer Pierce had completed extensive bias training and now led the department's revolutionary community outreach program. He visited schools regularly, teaching children about respect, dignity, and the importance of standing up for what's right. He stopped by the diner monthly, not as a police officer, but as someone continuing to learn from Bobby's example. The incident had sparked nationwide conversations about police accountability, community solidarity, and the power of social media for documenting injustice. 47 police departments across the country implemented the Washington Protocol's comprehensive reforms named after Bobby's dignified response to brutality. Sarah Lane's journalism career had launched from her live stream coverage. She now reported on civil rights for a major network, carrying forward the lessons she learned that day. The most important stories often happen when ordinary people choose to do extraordinary things. Every Sunday, Marcus flew home from Washington. Father and son visited Martha's grave together, sharing stories and strengthening bonds that trauma could have broken, but instead made unbreakable. Marcus spoke at police academies nationwide, sharing his father's story. "My job involves protecting the president, but my father taught me something. More crucial, how to protect your dignity when others try to destroy it." The educational impact continued growing. Bobby's story became mandatory viewing in diversity training programs across corporate America. Universities invited him to speak regularly. His message never wavered. "I spent 30 years helping build stronger communities. I refuse to let hatred tear down what love built." Marcus added at their joint speaking engagements, "My father showed the world that true strength isn't about fighting back. It's about standing firm in your principles when everything around you is chaos." Mel's Diner had partnered with the local police department for monthly coffee and conversation sessions, not publicity stunts, but genuine relationship-building opportunities between officers and community members. The construction worker who first stood up, James Patterson, now volunteered with veterans organizations. "If I find the courage to speak up once, I can find it again whenever injustice appears." Elena had expanded her community service program citywide, proving that individual actions could create institutional change. Local businesses followed her example, creating a network of support for families facing discrimination or economic hardship. As Bobby reflected 3 months later, surrounded by new friends at his familiar diner counter, he shared this wisdom with anyone willing to listen. "That terrible day taught me 3 essential truths. First, dignity cannot be taken from you. It can only be given away, and I chose to keep mine. Second, one person's courage to document injustice can inspire thousands to demand change. Third, justice delayed isn't always justice denied. Sometimes it's justice prepared to be served properly and completely." Marcus, visiting for their regular Sunday lunch together, added, "My father demonstrated that strength isn't about retaliation. It's about maintaining your humanity when others lose theirs." The video that started as documentation of injustice had become a blueprint for peaceful resistance and systematic change. Sarah's footage, viewed over 50 million times globally, carried this enduring message. Have you ever witnessed injustice and chosen silence over action? Have you ever seen someone abuse their power and done nothing to intervene? Bobby Washington's story proves that every witness possesses real power, the power to record truth, to speak up boldly, and to stand together for what's right. 3 concrete steps emerged for viewers inspired by Bobby's example. Document injustice fearlessly. Use your phone to record civil rights violations. Your video could save someone's life, career, and dignity. Stand up immediately when you witness abuse. Don't wait for someone else to act first. James Patterson's courage to speak up gave others permission to join him. Support systematic change through active participation. Vote for leaders who implement real police reform. Support businesses that actively oppose discrimination. Join or donate to civil rights organizations fighting for justice. Bobby Washington's story reminds us that heroes don't always wear uniforms or carry weapons. Sometimes they carry turkey sandwiches and newspapers, sitting quietly at diner counters, reading about their son's achievements while maintaining their own dignity despite facing hatred and abuse. The real victory wasn't Marcus's power reversing the situation. It was Bobby's character transforming it completely. His refusal to respond to hatred with more hatred, his insistence on redemption over revenge, and his unwavering belief in justice created a teaching moment that continues rippling across America. Share this story with 3 friends. Ask them directly, what would you have done in Bobby's situation? What would you have done as a witness? Because the next Bobby Washington might be sitting beside you right now, and the next Officer Morrison might still have time to choose a different path forward. Bobby Washington chose dignity over bitterness. Marcus Washington chose justice over revenge. Their community chose courage over silence. What will you choose when injustice appears in your life? If this story moved you, here's how you can make a difference. Like this video if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Share this story with friends and family. Let them know that ordinary people can create extraordinary change. Subscribe for more stories about justice, courage, and hope triumphing over hatred. Comment below. Have you ever witnessed injustice? What did you do? What would you do differently now after hearing Bobby's story? Most importantly, the next time you see someone being treated unfairly, remember Bobby Washington. Remember that your voice, your phone, your courage can change everything. Because dignity isn't negotiable. Justice isn't optional. And heroes like Bobby Washington prove that love always defeats hate when good people choose to act. Hit that notification bell so you never miss stories that restore your faith in humanity. Together we can build the world Bobby Washington believes in, one act of courage at a time.